I've been a day shift security guard in this building for 3 years. I know every floor, every camera, every blind spot. I know which doors stick and which elevators run slow. I know the cleaning crew's schedule, the delivery driver's routes, the after-hours access codes that haven't been changed since 2019. I know this building, but I didn't know the night guard. He was new, started 2 weeks ago. I'd never met him face to face. We passed each other at the door, him leaving, me arriving. He was young, quiet, kept his head down. This morning, I arrived at 6:55 a.m. like always. The lobby was dark. The security desk was empty. His coffee was still on the desk, still warm. I've been doing this long enough to know that coffee doesn't stay warm for 5 hours. The mug was his. I recognized the logo, some band I'd never heard of. The desk was otherwise clean. Logs were filled out, keys were in place, but he wasn't there. I checked the visitor log. No entries for the night. That's not unusual. This building is quiet after midnight. Mostly empty floors, a few overnight IT people on 8 and 12, cleaning crew on 3 and 4. I checked the patrol log. His last entry was at 1:47 a.m., floor 14. All clear. I told myself he probably stepped out for a cigarette, or went to the bathroom, or got hungry and walked to the deli around the corner. People do that. It's not a big deal. But the coffee bothered me. I picked up the mug. It was hot. Not warm. Hot. Like someone had poured it 10 minutes ago, not 5 hours ago. I put it down, called his cell. No answer. Texted him. No response. I pulled up the camera feeds. The building has 47 cameras. Lobby, elevators, corridors, stairwells, loading dock, parking garage. I can see almost everything from the security desk. Almost everything. Floor 14 has 3 cameras. Corridor A, Corridor B, and the stairwell landing. I pulled up the footage from last night. The corridor cameras showed nothing. Empty hallways, fluorescent lights, the occasional cleaning cart. But the timestamps were wrong. The system recorded 6 hours of footage from each camera, but the saved files were only 4 hours long. The missing 2 hours were the same on every camera, from 1:44 a.m. to 3:52 a.m. The exact window when the night guard made his last patrol entry. I checked the other floors. Same gap. Every camera on every floor lost 2 hours of footage at the same time. Not a glitch, not a power surge. A 2-hour window where this building's eyes were closed. I told myself it was a system update, or a server reset, or any of a dozen technical explanations that sound plausible when you say them out loud. I've been a security guard for 3 years. I've seen the cameras glitch before. A few seconds here, a minute there. Never 2 hours. Never every camera at once. But I have a shift to cover. I can't start pulling everything apart because one guy didn't show up and some footage is missing. If I called the police every time something in this building was slightly off, I'd be calling every week. I poured myself coffee, sat down, started my shift. At 8 a.m., the first wave of office workers arrived. Elevators running, doors opening and closing, phones ringing. The building came alive, but I couldn't stop thinking about floor 14. I pulled up the floor plan. Floor 14 is mostly storage. Old files, office furniture, boxes of supplies. No one works up there. The IT people are on 8 and 12. The cleaning crew hits 14 last, usually around 3 a.m. I checked the cleaning crew's log. They signed off at 2:30 a.m., before the camera gap ended. I called the crew supervisor, asked if anyone had been on 14 after they left. He said no. Asked if they'd seen the night guard. He said no. Asked if anything seemed wrong. He paused. He said the lights on 14 were already on when they got there. All of them. Even the storage rooms. Even the ones with motion sensors that only trigger when someone walks in. Someone had been on 14 before the cleaning crew arrived. Someone who knew how to trigger every light in every room. Or someone who didn't need to trigger them because they never left. I decided to do a walkthrough. Standard procedure when a guard doesn't check in. I radioed my supervisor, told him I was going to check floor 14. He said to be quick. He said the night guard probably just quit. People quit all the time in this job. I took the elevator, pressed 14. The doors opened onto a dark corridor. The lights were off. I stepped out. The motion sensor caught me. Lights flickered on, fluorescent, buzzing. The corridor stretched out in both directions, doors on either side. Storage A, Storage B, Storage C, Janitorial, Electrical, Server Room. I walked to the end of the corridor, checked each door. Locked, locked, locked. The server room door was different. Newer lock, keycard access. I don't have access to the server room. Only IT and the night guard have that code. I tried the handle. Unlocked. I pushed the door open. The server room was cold. Too cold. The AC was running at full blast even though the equipment was idle. Racks of servers, blinking lights, the hum of cooling fans. And in the back corner, behind a rack, a vent cover. Loose. Like someone had removed it and put it back in a hurry. I pulled the cover off. Behind it, a camera. Small, professional grade. Wired into the building's power. Not one of ours. I pulled out the memory card, checked the files. 6 months of footage. Every angle, every floor, every room. Someone has been watching this building for 6 months. Someone who knew where to put a camera where no one would look. Someone who had access to the server room. I put the memory card in my pocket, replaced the vent cover, left the server room, locked the door behind me. I walked back down the corridor toward the elevator. The lights flickered overhead. Buzzing. The motion sensors kept triggering as I moved, but I heard something else. Behind me. Footsteps. I stopped. The footsteps stopped. I started walking again. The footsteps started again. Same rhythm, same pace. Exactly 4 steps behind me. I didn't turn around. I kept walking. The elevator was at the end of the corridor. 20 meters. 15. 10. The footsteps got closer. I pressed the call button. The elevator was on floor 8. Coming up. Taking forever. The footsteps stopped. I heard a door open. Somewhere behind me. Not a slam. A slow, deliberate open. Like someone who knew exactly how to move without making noise. The elevator arrived. Doors opened. I stepped inside. Pressed ground floor. The doors started to close, and then they stopped. A hand on the edge of the door, holding it open. I looked up. The corridor was empty. No one there. But the door to storage C was open. The one I'd checked earlier. Locked. It wasn't locked anymore. I pushed the close button. The doors shut. The elevator started moving. I didn't breathe until I hit the lobby. I went back to the security desk. Sat down. Tried to process what I'd seen. The camera. The footage. The footsteps. The door. I pulled up the building's camera system again. Checked floor 14. The corridor cameras were still offline. The footage gap hadn't been fixed. But the stairwell camera was working. I pulled up the stairwell footage from 1:44 a.m. to 3:52 a.m. It was black. Not static. Not missing. Black. Like someone had covered the lens. But the audio was still recording. I turned up the volume. Footsteps. Slow. Heavy. Coming up the stairs. Floor by floor. From the basement to the roof. Then a voice. The night guard. He said, "I found it. It's been here the whole time." Then silence. Long silence. Then breathing. Not his. Something else. Something that breathed slower. Deeper. like lungs that were too large for a human chest. Then a sound I can't describe. Not a word, not a scream. A vibration, like something speaking through the floor. Then footsteps again. Faster this time. Running. Then nothing. The footage cut out at 3:52 a.m. The cameras came back online. The corridor was empty, but storage C was open. I haven't told anyone about the memory card. I haven't told anyone about the footsteps. I've just been sitting here, watching the lobby cameras, waiting for my shift to end. But every few minutes, I check floor 14. And every few minutes, the lights in storage C flicker. The building knows I found it, and I think it's been waiting for someone to notice. I'm writing this in the security booth. My shift ends in 20 minutes. The day guard will come to relieve me. I'll hand him the keys. I'll tell him everything is fine. I won't tell him about floor 14. I won't tell him about the camera. I won't tell him about the footsteps. Because if I do, he'll check. And if he checks, he might find something. And I don't want to be responsible for what happens to the next person who sees what I saw. The footage from the memory card is on my phone now. I watched the last 2 minutes on the elevator ride down. I shouldn't have. I need someone with better taxonomy access than I have. Someone who knows deep water species. Someone who can tell me what I photographed last night. Because I've checked everything. Every database, every field guide, every academic paper I could reach on my phone before the signal died. And nothing matches. The organism in my camera doesn't exist. Or it shouldn't. Or it hasn't for a very long time. Let me start from the beginning. I'm a marine biologist. I've been doing overnight tidal surveys in this estuary for 3 years. Same stretch of mudflat, same survey platform, same tide charts. I know this ecosystem the way I know my own apartment. I know which birds feed where. I know which fish run in which season. I know the smell of the water when it's coming in and the smell when it's going out. This was supposed to be a routine night. Check the equipment, record the samples, be back on the road by 3 a.m. The tide had other plans. I set up on the survey platform around 9 p.m. It's a raised wooden structure about a meter above the mud. Gives me a good view of the estuary. I've stood on that platform 100 times. Last night, there was a plate of food on it, still warm. Rice, fish, vegetables, the kind of meal someone would make for themselves, not pack in a cooler. Beside the plate, my field notes from last week. The ones I left in my truck. The ones I know I locked in the glove compartment. And a photograph of me, taken from behind, while I was working. I don't own a camera like that. The angle was wrong for a phone, too high, like someone was standing on something. Or floating. I told myself it was nothing. Wading birds leave footprints that look like human prints in soft mud. I've seen it before. And tidal anomalies happen with weather systems. The chart doesn't account for every variable. But the food was warm. I checked my truck. Locked. No sign of forced entry. The field notes were gone from the glove compartment. The photograph. I don't know where that came from. I went back to the platform, started my survey, tried to focus on the work. That's when I noticed the footprint. Single. Damp. On the mudflat near the platform. Too large for a child, too narrow for a man. The toes were spread wide, the way feet spread when they've been bare for a long time. It led toward the water, and didn't come back. I followed it with my headlamp. The prints stopped at the edge of the tide, not faded, not washed away. Stopped. Like whoever made them stepped into the water and didn't step out. I told myself the tide covered the return prints. That's what tides do. That's the logical explanation. But the water was still cold, and my legs were already wet from wading out to the platform. The cold didn't bother me at first. It's an estuary at night. Water is cold. But then I noticed the temperature rule. When the water around my legs got colder, something was close. When it warmed up again, whatever it was had moved away. I learned this over 3 hours. Cold meant presence. Warm meant absence. The temperature changed in patches, localized cold spots that drifted through the water like fish. But fish don't make the water that cold. Around midnight, I smelled it. Deep water. The kind of smell you get from the open ocean, not from an estuary. Salt, minerals, and something else. Something that had never been above the surface before. Something that didn't want to be smelled. I looked at my tide chart. The water was coming in 40 minutes early. Not a one-time thing. Every night this week. Consistent. Deliberate. Something was changing the tide. I should have left then. The access road was still open. I could have waded back to my truck and driven away. But I didn't. Because I needed to know what was in the photograph. I stayed on the platform. I kept recording samples. I kept watching the water. At 1:30 a.m., I saw it. Not clearly. Not fully. A shape beneath the surface, darker than the water around it. Moving against the current. Coming toward the platform. I raised my camera. Took a photo. The flash lit up the estuary for a split second. The shape was gone, but the water around the platform dropped 10 degrees. I felt it through my boots, through my waders, through my skin. Something was underneath me. I stood very still. Didn't breathe, didn't move. And then I heard it. Breathing, very close. At water level, slower than human breathing. Patient, deliberate. The rhythm was wrong. Inhale for 8 seconds. Exhale for 8 seconds. Pause for 8 seconds. Repeat. No human breathes like that. No animal I know breathes like that. I looked at the photo on my camera screen. The shape was there. Blurry, dark, but identifiable. Long, thin. Limbs that bent in ways limbs shouldn't bend. A head that was too small for the body. And on the head, eyes. Reflecting the flash, looking directly at the camera, looking at me. I checked my watch. 1:47 a.m. The tide would peak at 3 a.m. The road would be underwater until 7 a.m. I had 5 hours before I could drive out. 5 hours on a wooden platform in the dark with something in the water that breathes like nothing I've ever studied. I sat down, put my back against the railing, faced the water. Watched. The cold spots came and went. Close. Far. Close again. The pattern was random, but intentional. Like something was testing the distance. Learning how close it could get before I ran. I didn't run. At 3 a.m., the water stopped rising. The estuary went quiet. No birds, no fish breaking the surface. Just the sound of my own breathing. And the slower breathing beneath the platform. Then the breathing stopped too. I waited. 1 minute. 2. 5. The cold spots disappeared. The water returned to normal temperature. The smell of deep water faded. I looked over the edge of the platform. Nothing. Just dark water. Just mud. Just the reflection of the stars. But in the reflection, something else. A shape, standing behind me, on the platform. I spun around. Empty. Just my equipment. Just my camera. Just my field notes. But the photograph was gone from the platform. The one of me working. The one I hadn't brought with me. Something had taken it back. I stayed on the platform until dawn. Didn't sleep, didn't close my eyes. Just watched the water and waited for the light. At 6:30 a.m., the tide dropped enough for the road to be visible. I waded back to my truck. Didn't look back at the platform. Didn't look at the water. I just drove. When I got home, I downloaded the photos from my camera. The ones I took during the survey. The ones of the samples, the tide markers, the estuary at night, and the one of the shape. It was there. Clearer than I remembered. Long, thin, eyes reflecting the flash. But there was something else in the photo, something I hadn't seen on the camera screen. Behind me, on the platform, a second figure, standing where I had been standing, facing the water, not moving. The figure was wearing my clothes, my waders, my jacket, my headlamp. But it wasn't me. The head was tilted wrong, the arms hung at the wrong angle, and there was no shadow beneath it. I zoomed in on the face. It was looking at the camera, smiling. The smile had too many teeth. I deleted the photo. I formatted the memory card. I threw the card in the trash. But this morning, when I checked my camera, the photo was back, and there was a new one, taken from inside my apartment, while I slept. The timestamp said 3:17 a.m. I live alone. My doors were locked. My windows were closed. But in the photo, standing at the foot of my bed, was the shape from the estuary, and it was holding my camera. I'm writing this from a hotel room 60 miles away. I don't know if it followed me. I don't know if it can. But last night, when I turned on the bathroom light, the water in the sink was cold. Not tap cold, estuary cold. And the drain was making a sound that wasn't draining. It was breathing. I have 30 days to find somewhere else to live. The eviction notice is taped to my refrigerator. My friend Sarah said I could stay on her couch for a few weeks. That was 3 weeks ago. I'm still on her couch, and I'm starting to think something else is in this apartment with us. Something that's been here longer than either of us. The eviction happened fast. 1 missed payment became 2. 2 became 4. Then the notice appeared on my door. Sarah was the only friend who said yes when I called. She gave me a key and pointed to the sofa. I cried that night, not because I was sad, because someone was kind to me when I didn't deserve it. The first night, I couldn't sleep. New place, new sounds. The radiator hisses, the floorboards creak in ways I don't recognize. The refrigerator hums at a frequency that's just wrong enough to notice. But the pillow on the other end of the sofa had an indent in it the next morning. Like someone had been lying there, watching me sleep. Sarah sleeps in the bedroom, door closed. She wouldn't have come out without me hearing. The sofa is against the wall opposite her door. I would have seen her. I would have heard the door open. I asked her if anyone else had a key. She said no. Just her. Just me. She said the building manager has a master, but he never uses it without notice. The second night, I woke up to static. The television was on, a channel of white noise, gray and hissing and endless. I turned it off before I went to sleep. I remember pressing the power button. I remember the click. Sarah was already in bed. Her light was off. Her door was closed. I turned it off again, went back to sleep. The third night, I left the remote on the coffee table. In the morning, it was on the kitchen counter. Next to a glass of water, I didn't pour. The water was still cold. I told Sarah about the remote. She laughed. Said I probably sleepwalked. Said I've been under a lot of stress. She's right about the stress. I've been evicted. I have no job. My phone is about to be shut off. My credit is destroyed. I have 30 days to figure out my entire life, or I'm on the street. But I don't sleepwalk. I never have. The television static happened every third night. The pillow indent appeared every morning. The remote moved when I wasn't looking. Small things, dismissible things. But they happened on a schedule. I started writing it down. A notebook, dates and times, and what I found. January 3rd. TV static at 2:17 a.m. Remote on counter in the morning. January 4th. Pillow indent. January 5th. Nothing. January 6th. TV static at 2:17 a.m. Remote on counter. Pillow indent. January 7th. Nothing. January 8th. TV static at 2:17 a.m. Remote on counter. Pillow indent. Glass of water. The pattern was too regular to be random, too specific to be coincidence. Then I found the dates on the wall. Sarah's bedroom closet is small. The door sticks. She says she never goes in there. She keeps her winter coats, and that's it. I was looking for a blanket. She said there might be one in the back, left by the previous tenant, so I shoved the coats aside and crawled in. The closet is deeper than it looks from outside. The back wall is plaster, not drywall. Old, cracking, and covered in scratches. Dates. Written into the plaster. Going back years. Decades. The handwriting changed every few entries. Different people, different years. Some were carved deep, like someone used a knife. Some were scratched lightly, like fingernails. But the spacing was the same, exactly 7 days apart. The most recent date was 3 days from now. I counted backward. The entries went all the way to the bottom of the wall, near the floor where the plaster was crumbling. The oldest date I could read was from 1984. 40 years of dates, every 7 days. Thousands of marks. Some of the dates had names next to them. Some had initials. Some had nothing at all, just the date, scratched into the plaster, waiting for something. Sarah has lived here for 4 years. She says she's never seen the marks. She says she never goes in the closet. She says the door sticks and she just never fixed it. I believe her. I don't think she made the marks, but someone did. I started paying closer attention after that. Not to the apartment, to the pattern. The smart plug. Sarah has an old smart plug behind the television, a different brand than the ones she uses for her lamps. She said she didn't put it there. She said it came with the apartment. It's not connected to any network. It's not paired with her phone. But the light on it blinks every night at 2:17 a.m. for exactly 4 minutes. Something is drawing power through a plug that isn't connected to anything. I checked the app on her phone. The smart plug doesn't appear in the device list. It's not registered to any account. There's no record of it ever being set up, but the light blinks, and the plug is warm, hot, like someone just unplugged something heavy. I touched it once, at 2:18 a.m. The plastic was almost too hot to hold. There's nothing plugged into it, nothing drawing current, but something is generating heat inside that little box of circuits and plastic. I unplugged it. The light went off. The next night, at 2:17 a.m., the light was on again, and the plug was back in the outlet. I hadn't plugged it back in. Last night, I couldn't sleep. I lay on the couch with my eyes open, watching the dark. The apartment was quiet. Too quiet. The radiator wasn't hissing. The refrigerator wasn't humming. Even the street outside was silent. No cars, no footsteps. Just the sound of my own breathing. At 2:17 a.m., the television turned on by itself. Static. The same channel, the same gray, hissing snow. I didn't turn it off. I just watched. And I saw something in the static. Not a face, not a shape at first. A shadow, moving behind the snow. Like someone was standing in front of the TV, between me and the screen. But there was no one there. The shadow moved slowly, deliberately. It had posture, the same posture as me when I sleep on the couch. Slightly curled, one arm hanging off the edge, head tilted toward the back of the sofa. I was sitting up, wide awake. My posture was completely different, but the shadow was sleeping. The shadow reached toward the edge of the screen, toward the corner of the room, toward me. I sat up straighter. The shadow stopped, held still, like it was waiting for me to lie back down. I looked at the smart plug. The light was on. Red. Blinking in rhythm with the static. The shadow moved again. Faster this time. Across the screen. Across the wall. across the ceiling. I looked at the bedroom door. Sarah's door. It was open. It wasn't open when I went to sleep. I called her name. No answer. I called again, louder. She mumbled something, said she was sleeping, said her door was closed. She sounded far away, further than the distance between the couch and her bedroom, like her voice was coming from somewhere else, somewhere deeper. I looked back at the TV. The static was gone. The screen was black. The smart plug light was off. But the carpet near the front door had a new path in it, worn down to the backing. The padding underneath was crushed flat. I got up, walked to the door, looked down at the carpet. The path was a circuit, from the front door to the sofa, circled the coffee table, went to the kitchen, paused at the refrigerator, went to the bedroom door, then back to the front door. Walked nightly, for a long time. The fibers were worn away in places. The pattern was invisible in daylight. You had to look at it from an angle, in low light, to see the difference in texture. But at 2:30 a.m., with only the streetlight coming through the window, I could see every step. I followed the path. From the door to the sofa. The indent in the cushion where someone had been sitting. Not me. Not Sarah. Someone heavier. Someone who sat in the same spot every night for years. From the sofa to the kitchen. The floor was worn smooth in a straight line. No detours, no hesitation. Like the person who walked this path knew exactly where they were going. From the kitchen to the bedroom door. The path stopped at the threshold. Didn't enter, just stood there. Waiting. Then back to the front door. And out. But the door was locked from the inside. I checked. The chain was on. The deadbolt was engaged. Whoever walked this path didn't use the door. This morning I checked the closet again. I needed to see the dates. I needed to make sure I wasn't imagining them. They were still there. 40 years of them. Every 7 days. Thousands of marks. But there was a new one. Fresh. Scratched into the plaster above the others. Today's date. And next to it, my name. Not Sarah's. Mine. I've only been here 3 weeks. I've never been in that closet before yesterday. I've never touched that wall. But my name was there. In handwriting I didn't recognize, scratched deep enough to draw blood. The plaster was still slightly damp where the scratch had exposed fresh material underneath. I touched the letters. They were warm. I pulled my hand back. My fingertip was red. Not from the plaster. From something else. Something that had been waiting in those scratches for someone to come close. I didn't tell Sarah. I closed the closet door. I grabbed my bags. I walked out of the apartment. I'm writing this from a coffee shop across town. I don't know where I'm going tonight. I don't have anywhere to go. But I couldn't stay there. Not with my name on that wall. Not with the next date in 3 days. Not with the shadow that sleeps like me. I called Sarah an hour ago. To say goodbye. To thank her. To warn her. She didn't answer. I left a voicemail. Told her to check her closet. Told her to look at the wall. Told her to call me back. She hasn't called. I called again. No answer. I called the building manager. Asked him to check on her. He said he'd go up. He called me back 10 minutes later. Said Sarah's apartment was empty. Her stuff was there. Her clothes, her phone, her keys on the kitchen counter. But she wasn't. And the closet door was open. He asked me if I knew where she went. I said no. I didn't know how to explain what I really thought. That the thing in the static, the thing that's been walking that path for 40 years, it wasn't waiting for the next date. It was waiting for someone to leave. And I left. The building manager said something else. His voice was shaky. He said he looked inside the closet, the back wall, the dates, and on the wall, right below my name, there was a new scratch. Today's date. And right next to it, Sarah's name. The handwriting was the same as mine. The same as the name above it. But I didn't write either of them. I'm going back tonight. Not because I want to. Because she took me in when I had nothing. I can't leave her there. I'm bringing a flashlight, a knife, the notebook, but I know what I'll find. The shadow on the couch. The same posture as me. One arm hanging off the edge. Waiting. And on the wall in the closet, a new date. Tomorrow. And a new name. Mine. I'm walking out the door of this coffee shop now. I don't know if I'll write again. If you're reading this, and you're staying on someone's couch because you lost your home, check the closet. Check the dates on the wall. Check the carpet near the front door for a path that shouldn't be there. And if you see your name scratched into the plaster, don't leave without saying goodbye. Because something else already has. And it's been waiting for you to leave so it could take your place.